This is Photoshop Classroom in a Book, Chapter 4. This is Part C. Our next step is to add a drop shadow and a satin sheen to one of the flowers. We're going to select the flower layer, and you're going to choose Layer, Layer Style, or go down to your FX and click on it and bring up the drop shadow. We're going to apply the following settings. And I'm going to pull this down so that we can see it. Opacity, and change the opacity from 75 down to 60% or thereabouts. The distance needs to be brought up to 13 pixels. The spread taken down to only 9%. Making sure that your global light is still selected. The blend mode should still be multiply, but we're going to add something else. Instead of clicking OK, click on the word satin over in your Styles panel. Now we want to make sure that the invert is selected, which is right here, and we want to apply these following settings. Color, next to the blending mode, should be fuchsia, so something in this range. The opacity needs to be brought down to 20%. Distance should be 22 pixels, approximately. The satin layer effect applies interior shading to create a satin finish. The contour controls the shape of the effect, and invert flips the contour curve. You can click OK to apply both layer styles. Just because we can, we're going to use the extra credit on our lesson right now. It says that you can use this on the end file in your folder, but we're going to apply this right now. So let's pick up our Hawaii layer. There it is. And we're going to add another drop shadow. So if we double click drop shadow, we're going to click the add button right next to it. Select your second drop shadow, and we're going to adjust this drop shadow to change options. We're going to click the color swatch and pick up a pink from the second flower and say OK. We want to change our drop shadow settings. We're going to leave the multiply. We're going to change our opacity up to 100%. We're going to maintain global light, change our distance to 20 pixels, make your spread 27%, a little bit smaller, and the size increased to 45 pixels, or thereabout. We now have a second pink drop shadow that we're going to say OK to. Next, we're going to add an adjustment layer. Adjustment layers can be added to an image to apply color and tonal adjustments, and we've used an adjustment layer in the previous chapters. We can add a color balance to an image to experiment with different colors. The change, remember, only occurs on the adjustment layer, and you can either hide or delete it at any point. We're going to add a hue saturation adjustment layer to change the color now of the purple flower. Well, it's not exactly purple, it's rather pink. An adjustment layer affects all the layers below it, unless a selection is active when you create it, or you create a clipping mask. So we're going to select the Flower 2 layer. We want to click on Hue Saturation in the Adjustments panel to change the hue and saturation. Let's find Hue and Saturation. In the Properties panel, make these changes. Hue needs to go up to 43. Saturation, 19. Lightness stays at 0. The effects change the Flower 2, the pineapple, and the clouds, and the background layer. We really only wanted to change the Flower 2 layer. So you're going to right-click on the layer name on the hue, the layer name on the Hue Saturation Adjustment layer, and choose Create Clipping Mask. An arrow appears in the Layers panel that indicates that the adjustment layer applied only to the Flower 2 layer. We're going to update a layer effect. Select the Island Paradise layer. That's up at the top, if I remember correctly. And in the Tools panel, select the Horizontal Type tool. In the Options bar, you can change your font down to a 32-point font. Although you didn't select the text by dragging the Type tool, Island Paradise has now been downsized to a 32-point font. Using the Horizontal Type tool, click in between Island and Paradise and type the word of. As you edit the text, the layer styles are applied to the new text. Unfortunately, we really didn't need that of. So we're going to take it back out, which is really good because otherwise our text didn't fit too well. But since we've resized, we're going to have to recenter. So take your Move tool and again, center Island Paradise. You can use your smart guides to help you realign and center that again underneath the word Hawaii. This is a good time as well to save. We've almost completed our postcard. The elements are almost all arranged correctly. We're going to finish up by positioning the postmark, and then we're going to add a postcard border. We're going to select the postage layer and use the Move tool to drag the postage stamp down to the middle and right of the image. Select the Island Paradise layer and then click the Create a New Layer button at the bottom of the panel. Go to Select and choose All. Choose Select, Modify, Border. In the dialog box that comes up, type in 10 pixels and say OK. A 10 pixel border is selected around the entire image. We're going to fill it with white. Make sure that white is your foreground color, so you can just swap that over from whatever you had if you had white there, or select it. Or if you choose to use a different color, you can. Edit and fill, and in the fill dialog box, rather than whatever pops up, you're going to use foreground color and say OK. You can deselect. Double-click the Layer 1 name and change it to Border. Make sure that you have saved your document, and the next thing we're going to do is work with flattening and saving files. I want you to complete this section, although I do not want you to send me the flattened file. I want you to send me this part where I can see all the layers. You're going to select any tool except for the Type tool because you don't want to be in text editing mode by mistake. And we are going to go to Image and select Duplicate. You can call this one 04 flat. This one is going to be for your own benefit. We will now have the working file. I still have my end file open so that I could compare it and see the differences. Mine looks a little bit different because some of the choices I made were a little bit different. Nobody's will look exactly the same. But this is the one that is the flat file. Don't close your working file yet. Now you're going to go up to Layer and select Flatten Image. You only have the background layer left. You can save this because we haven't actually saved it anywhere yet. You can save it into your lesson folder. I want you to look at what the file size is though. This file is a 2.2 meg file. When you go and look at your working file, it is 2.2 megs flat. It is 41 meg file. These are much smaller files when you flatten. What I would like you to still do, however, is to go into this file, your working file that has all of the layers, Because this is a very large file, it is 17 megs, I want to make this a little bit smaller so that this is going to be easier for you to submit to me. What I want you to do is go up to Image and go to Image Size. I would like you at this point to change your resolution from 150 pixels per inch down to 72 pixels per inch. Notice the size change. It went from a 2.2 meg file flat to a 541K file. Once you do that, the image is going to shrink on your screen. But this is the file that I would like you to save for me. Oh, I accidentally clicked off my Hawaii text. I want that turned on. And I want you then to go to File, Save As, and save this out as your PDF file to send. I had pre-saved mine and I saw the size, so I'm going to save this over again. Remember, of course, to include your initials. I'm replacing mine. And we want to do a press quality, make sure that preserve Photoshop editing capabilities is still checked, and save the PDF. Select OK for the request there. When that finishes saving, you're going to find that that's a much smaller file. I think it's still saving right now. But I have an 8 meg file right now instead of 17 megs, so it's going to be a much easier file for you to upload and to send to me. Next, you're going to open up the family photo file. This is one of our basic adjustments that I think you'll find very handy. We have two layers. We're looking at layer 2, and when I turn off layer 2, there's layer 1. Same position, two family photos. They're slightly different, but pretty much the same. In layer 2, the girls are looking in the wrong direction. In layer 1, they're looking at you, but there's some other issues that are going on, people not smiling. So, we've got the lighting isn't as good as it could be. We've got a few issues going on. Grandpa definitely looks a little better. But we would like to get a few things straightened out on here. First, we're going to align both of those photos, and then we're going to use the eraser to brush out the parts on layer 2 that we really would like to have improved. We need to make sure that both layers are visible, and then shift-click to select both of them. Go to Edit, Auto Align, and accept the auto default that comes up. You can see now, after that they're really quite well aligned. People are in slightly different position, but it's much better than what it was. And now pick up your eraser tool, and you're going to get a soft brush. So go up here, and rather than a hardness of 100, take a hardness down to about 0. Bring your size up maybe a little bit more. You can always change it. You're going to work just on layer 2. Start by working in the grandpa and get his smile put in. How about that? You can also use the eraser tool on the girls. You're just going to blend a little bit so that they're no longer facing away from the camera, but towards it. And you can adjust a little bit, take a little bit more. Remember, you've got a soft brush with a feathered edge. And we can take and do the same thing to both of them. We're going to adjust that and erase out the center of their faces so that the bottom layer comes through. And because we have the soft brush, we can make a smooth transition. Maybe Mom didn't look quite so stern in this one, so let's lift her face up a little bit by letting the other image come through.